Let me ask you this. What if the most important novel ever written, the one that basically invented the modern novel, was created by a one-handed soldier, a former tax collector who was once captured by pirates and sold into slavery? It sounds like fiction, but it's not. Today, we are diving headfirst into the incredible world of Spanish literature, a world filled with mad knights, passionate poets, and stories that have completely changed how we understand reality itself.
And we're starting with this question from the master himself, Miguel de Cervantes. It just perfectly captures the spirit of what we're talking about. In Spanish literature, madness and wisdom, they aren't opposites. They're usually found in the exact same place.
Okay, so to get our bearings in this massive literary landscape, we're going to need a map. So let's start with the key movements, the big eras that really shape Spain's unique and powerful voiceover over the centuries. Three major periods really set the stage. First, you've got the Siglo de Oro, the Golden Age. This was a time of huge national confidence, where art, theater, and of course the novel just exploded. Then Romanticism shows up and the focus shifts inward to really intense personal emotions and heroic individuals. And finally, the generation of 98. This was a group of writers who were responding to a national crisis by looking inward, asking these huge questions about the very soul of Spain. This right here, this is the foundation for everything that follows.
And our first guide on this journey is, of course, Miguel de Cervantes, a man whose own life story was so epic, so tragic, and so unbelievable, it could have been a novel itself.
I mean, just think about this. Before he wrote his masterpiece, Cervantes lived a life of just raw experience. He was a soldier who knew the real cost of glory. He was a captive who understood power and cruelty. He was a slave who knew exactly what freedom meant. He saw the world not from some ivory tower, but from the battlefield, the prison cell, the dusty roads of Spain. This wasn't just hardship. No, this was his research. And he poured all of it into his writing, giving it this gritty realism that literature had just never seen before.
And all that living, it all funnels down into this one monumental year, 1605. This is the year Part 1 of Don Quixote hit the shelves, and with it, a brand new art form was born, the modern novel.
So what does that even mean, the first modern novel? What's the big deal? Well, up until this point, stories were mostly about mythical heroes or perfect, flawless knights. Cervantes did something totally radical. He blended the gritty real world he knew, the dusty inns, the cynical peasants, with the wild fantasy world living inside his main character's head. For the very first time, a hero's inner life, their psychology, was just as important as their adventures. And that was a game changer. And that's exactly why Don Quixote still feels so relevant today. It's this timeless exploration of what it means to be human, right? That constant struggle between our ideals and the world as it really is. The search for honor in a world that often feels dishonorable, and using satire to expose the truth. Cervantes didn't just give us characters, he gave us mirrors, and we can still see ourselves in them. Okay, so from the novel that completely redefined reality, we're going to pivot to the poetry that captured the soul. We're moving from the brilliant mind of Cervantes to the passionate heart of Federico Garcia Lorca, a man whose words were pure music and raw feeling.
See, you have to understand, Lorca's poetry isn't just words on a page. It's music. It's the rhythm of a flamenco guitar. It's the mournful cry of a folk song. It's the soul of his home, Andalusia, poured into verse. This is poetry that you're supposed to feel deep in your bones, not just read with your eyes.
His work is also this incredible language of powerful symbols. It's like a secret code, and once you learn to unlock it, this whole other layer of meaning just opens up. For him, the moon is rarely just the moon. It's this cold, sharp omen of death, or a fate you just can't escape. The horse isn't just an animal, it's a symbol of passion, that wild life force. And blood? Blood speaks of sacrifice, family, and tragedy. By layering these simple images, he creates this unbelievable emotional depth.
So, you've got the novelist of realism and the poet of the soul. What on earth do they have in common? They both understood a fundamental truth, that literature is always a mirror. It reflects the deepest values, the biggest struggles, and the true character of the society that creates it.
So how can you learn to see that reflection for yourself? Well, here's a simple little toolkit. First, just notice the structure, the music of it, the rhyme and the rhythm. Second, look for the imagery, the metaphors and the symbols like Lorca's moon. And third, and this is crucial, always think about the context. What was happening in the world when this was written? It's a really powerful way to unlock the secrets of any piece of literature.
You know, a great way to think about this is the classic book versus its movie adaptation, right? The original work, the Abra, gives you everything. That deep dive into a character's thoughts, all the complex themes, the nuance. A film, on the other hand, has to condense all that. It relies on visuals to tell the story. Both can be amazing, but they really show how the medium itself shapes the story you get.
So, what happened to the legacy of Cervantes and Lorca? Where is it today? Well, it is alive and well, and it's evolving in this vibrant, exciting world of contemporary Spanish fiction.
I mean, just look at the literary scene today. It's this incredible tapestry of different voices, and they're all carrying that legacy forward. You have Carlos Ruiz Zafón, who takes Cervantes' love for a complex story and twists it into these amazing Gothic mysteries. You have Javier Marías, who dives into those deep existential questions, a clear heir to that psychological depth Cervantes pioneered, and Almudena Grandes, who uses the novel as that powerful social mirror, bringing Spain's recent history to vivid life. The tradition is in very, very good hands.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? From a mad knight who dared to dream in a world that had forgotten how, to a poet who gave a voice to an entire nation's soul, Spanish literature offers us this powerful, timeless lens to view not just Spain, but ourselves.
And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. How does a story from hundreds of years ago, about a crazy knight or a passionate poet, still have the power to shape how we see ourselves, our world, and our place in it today?